Welcome back. What a conversation we're having both online, on air and offline as well. We're talking about the HIV pandemic and of course the challenges in terms of new infections, and our panelists will help us understand where the new infections are hitting the most. Speaking of panelists, a new one has joined us, Bernard Baridi, aka MC Baridi. Here with us, he's a HIV prevention ambassador. I won't ask him why Baridi, why not Joto, but welcome to the program. In addition, we want to let all our viewers know you can weigh in on this discussion. 22422 is our SMS line. We're asking you what needs to be done to ensure that new infections, of course, are reduced drastically, put to a complete end, and that's what we want to know from you. What are your thoughts on this? 22422 is the SMS line. The hashtag is Daybreak, at Trevor Mbija, at Citizen TV Kenya, and at Wahiga Mwaura as well. We also have lots of your feedback. Let's briefly take a look at some of them now.
Let's start on SMS. 22422 is the SMS line. Text us, tell us where you're texting from. Steve from Jakwat says, we're living in a society where drugs are surrounding us youths as if it is food. We have freedom and a lot of free time, and these are some of the reasons increasing the numbers of infections. Let us all be responsible.
Wow, Steve, thank you for being very honest with that tweet there. And that SMS comment from Eldoret. Thanks for watching as always. You said the reality in this country is that household poverty amongst ordinary Kenyans has reached unprecedented levels. Shrinking incomes, ever increasing responsibilities renders teens and young adults more vulnerable due to lack of family support. These teens are now on their own at the mercy of socio-economic vagaries of a capitalistic economy or capitalist economy. The situation is likely to worsen. Comment giving us a holistic view of what could be leading to these new infections.
Exactly. Abel from Eldoret says the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS has died down, hence it is no longer viewed as a killer disease. That the prevalence rate of HIV is high among married couples shows infidelity. For the adolescents, sex education should be introduced in school.
Although I think it's already part of the school curriculum. I could be wrong, but yes, I think one of our speakers here, or a panelist, alluded to that. You don't give us your name, but you say, I'm following, but I'm worried about why the government has sidelined HIV testing counselors. Many have been laid off due to lack of funds to pay them. And Trevor, we spoke about funding. And the government has left the issue to the donors. And when the donors slash budgets, they keep on laying off counselors every year. I'm a victim. Now I'm jobless. I've been serving in the field for so long. Please let them do something.
Oh, wow. All right, let's see what more you're still saying on SMS 22422. Just text us your name and where you're texting from, like Mutembe from Meru. Says HIV AIDS awareness has gone down nowadays. The media and public health awareness is nowhere in the public domain. Politics and other issues have taken the center stage. Teenagers are infected in high numbers on daily basis. Vices like prostitution has become common, with the authority having no control over it. No sexual education has been in school and all public institutions. My dress, my choice, and moral irresponsible has a role in it.
Although I'm not sure what my dress, my choice has to do with. I think that is an argument that can be countered in many ways.
Dress code. We will see. We'll hear what the panelists
I don't know if you want to open that Pandora's box. Thank God Jugosh on Twitter is saying, although Kenya's commitment to control the HIV pandemic has yielded significant positive progress, it's important to note that where we are, so that we continue adding efforts and creatively looking for ways to end HIV in Kenya. Thank God, Jugush, for that. And we have one more.
Let's see. Ali Dayeb says, Ministry of Education officials and teachers have sidelined HIV and AIDS schools. They're no longer treated seriously.
And that was one of my thoughts. What's the focus now in schools? But before that, I think Rebecca was going to give us some perspective. We've been throwing numbers out there, but the numbers could be for different age groups. Just help us understand what are the infection rates per age group with the data that you have.
Okay, so just for what we've been talking about, the 22 infections per year, that's for the age group 10 to 19.
It's per year?
Yeah, per year.
Okay.
And that
per day? So it's not per day?
No, it's per day. Per day is 22 infections. That's between the ages of 10 to 19. And that's for that age groups only. So when you look at the data for 15 to 24, we have 48 new infections per day, which is 2 infections every hour.
2 infections every hour?
And that's for the age 15 to 24.
Wow, so that is where it's most prevalent.
Yeah, that age group, yes.
All right. And MC Baridi, you've been dealing with this a lot. And before you came in, we were talking about the attitudes that the people have. First of all, when you saw these numbers, what was your reaction?
I think if you look at the number, at least it's at reduced compared to how it was. So I think we have done a great work as a country because it's at reduced from where it was before. But I know it's a shocking number, which we need to look at it very well. And I think what is we have things like condom. As someone has said there that we don't have information nowadays in school. HIV awareness has gone down, donors cutting funds and everything. But on my opinion, I think that the sexual immorality or intercourse started at home when our parents are, no one is, if you look at the tweets and the information, everyone is a blame game. Government does not do this, school does not do this, parent does not do this. So why this number is coming up? Because the parents has left their responsibility. And I always say that if you have parents that are too busy, go to work, they want to get school fees, to pay the school fees to these kids and everything. If they take the kids to school, so they leave the responsibility to the children at school, to the teachers. When you go to school, teachers are too busy. They want you to get an A and be an engineer and a lawyer. If you go to church, pastors want you to receive Christ and go to heaven. So now as I come down to talk to these kids of what is really going on, there is no discussion that parent can have with the kid one-on-one because they fear they cannot start talking about sex at home. So these kids start practicing these things at home, even with the ones that are working for them, like house helps. And when they are depressed and when they have mental illness challenges, they come together. The other thing that we have condoms as a country, but where do we get these condoms? You have to go and buy condom in a shop. So when you go to buy this condom in this shop is the where people stay. It's a building and then up or down there's a shop. Then you want to go to buy condom there. The shopkeeper knows the parents and everybody. So the stigma that comes up by buying these condoms is a problem. School does not want us to talk about condoms at school. Churches, they don't want people to talk about condom at school. So these things are being done in a secret way.
What do you read of why they make these decisions? They are concerned that, and from what I've heard, is that if you not necessarily promote condom use, but make, I don't know how to put that question into perspective, but that you in a sense give freedom for young people to engage. How do you talk to, for example, church leaders when you know sort of where their minds are?
So as like what we do mostly in Blast and also at NASCOP, we do a lot of advocacy in schools, mostly universities. Okay. And also youth church, where we can have a forum and discuss these issues with different youths in the church. But the challenge comes in where it's a responsibility, it's supposed to be a collective responsibility that everybody needs to take part, society and community to take part. So the problem is it's not about even HIV infection, even early pregnancy is coming too much. But the problem is no one is discussing these issues. People feel like they are not comfortable to talk to these kids about these things. So when you start talking to someone about this early, then they start knowing that this is the ways that if I want to do this, this is how I'm supposed to do it. But if you keep silent, you keep quiet, you don't want to talk about it, then they start moving and experiencing outside.
On their own. But Bernard, from your own experience, and we were talking about this earlier on with Rebecca, what are the attitudes of the young people today? Because I know you also interact with them. Are they scared of getting infected?
They fear pregnancy than HIV. HIV, they feel like it's cool, and they see people.
They feel like it's
cool. It's nice. There's no problem. You can be HIV positive and you take medication and you look beautiful the way you're supposed to be. And so they feel the stigma that comes with pregnancy, because now you'll carry it. If you are a man, you have to be responsible to stay with this person at home. If you are a lady, you'll carry the pregnancy and walk with it at home, and everybody will know. It's like people will know that you did this. But most of the young people that I've seen, HIV is not a big issue. It's better they have unprotected sexual intercourse, then they look for P2, where they can help themselves not to get the pregnancy. So they can go for P2 than going for PrEP or PEP. But they can look for P2. They can go and buy P2 than going for. So they don't fear HIV per se, but they fear pregnancy.
And Rebecca, one of the things that I find very interesting, and you've just put these numbers into perspective, if these are the rate of infections and then we have 6 deaths daily, what is the gap between those two? Because you say on one side that the youth feel like they can handle HIV because they have the medication for that and nobody has to know, but at the same time there's some that are still dying from it.
Yeah.
Is it, what is it, there's a disconnect there?
So with my experience and the young people that I've seen who are newly diagnosed, issues of adherence are very, very present. You find that because just like we laughed about taking our malaria tabs and making sure that we complete our dosage. So here is a drug that you've never taken before, but now you have to take, some people have to take 2 tablets every day, some people have to take 1 every day, and you have to stay consistent. And so I have had an experience with a young person who just got diagnosed, and the struggle is like genuinely real, and that's the face that people don't talk about. And I wish that more and more people, yes, find this treatment.
Without revealing the identity, are you able to share 1 or 2 things about their struggle?
Their struggle is that when they take the medication, they don't feel like doing much. So they're nauseated, or they're tired, they're not particularly productive. So the person that you are, you're not able to continue being. And and also that taking that
So there are side effects.
Yeah, and staying on treatment. It's also not the easiest thing. And I think maybe Baridi can talk about that.
Okay, I think I'm fine talking about this because I've worked in HIV world for now since I was young.
You're still young now.
Yes, and it's like more than 15 years. So I started it when I was young, and I've seen young people who are dying, and I've lost several number of young people, and even my age mates, most of them went to stay with God. The challenge comes that first we had drugs. By that time we had CD4 count, that it do the CD4. If you are in the CD4 number is I don't know 300, then you put into Septil, then you go to ARVs. Then these ARVs, they side effect that they come to. Sometimes there was a feverings, right? Where if you take a feverings, you sleep at night and you're being chased. And this
hallucination.
Yes. So you feel like if this drug is what I'm taking and put me to this condition, why do I take it? That's a part of why these young people, they might lose their life and that they are dying because of the virus, because their viral load is going down and they cannot work or move. It's because of the first stigma becoming around it. When you are young and you are on medication, you know those bottles that you put the drugs, you have to go with these bottles at school.
Okay, hold that thought for 1 second. You've just given us 2 of them, but we have a caller from Molem. She's called Anne. Anne, good morning.
Morning.
Yes, go ahead with your comment or question, Anne. Sorry?
Anne, I don't know if you're on the move. We can't hear you clearly.
Nasema parents pia wanachangia.
Okay.
Because hawataki kukua open to talk their children situation ya sex, maybe and HIV.
Okay.
And sijui kwa nini wataki kuongea, because hii ni reality. Tunafaa kukua open, hii ni kitu happen.
Okay.
So hata shule like kuanzia primary. Hawataki kuweka hizo protections hapo, maybe kwa toilet kwa zinafaa kuwa.
Okay.
Wana assume ati we should abstain. Tulikuwa abstinence.
Yes.
But in reality tunajua sio wote wata abstain. Kuna wenye walishakuwa sexual active from their homes. Na watakuja wakimingle na watu wengine wataweza kuwa.
Okay. Sawa.
For example, Catholics, they don't hawafunzi hiyo mambo ya protection, hata hakuna hizo protections.
Sawa. Asante Anne. That's Anne from Molem. She's brought out 2 interesting aspects: parental guidance and the assumption that the young people should abstain. But MC Baridi, you're finishing with the issue of why the death is going on. There's a stigma. You said stigmatization.
Yes.
And also the side effects of
medication. So what I'm saying about the stigma comes in when you go to school, high school. Then the teachers does not know your status. So you have to keep your drugs on a box, your school drugs, right? Secretly. So you have to wake up, because these drugs go with the time. If you're taking your medication at 8 a.m., you will take it at 8 p.m. at night. So you find that the challenge that I've been having when now someone is going from now class 8 to go to the secondary school, they used to take drugs when they're at home because of the parent. Now once they go to high school, now the time changes. That 8 a.m. you are in assembly. That 8 p.m. you are in prep. So they start like, I take it around 10 when people are at break, then I take it around 11 when
I need to sneak out.
Because I need to sneak out. And also the spot check that teachers does, when they come and do the spot check and remove your drugs and they put it there, then they feel like I will not go back to school with my drugs. So it's better stay at school for those 3 months without taking medication, then I'll come back to at home, then I take my drugs.
And what are the effects of that?
If you don't take your medication, that's now we are losing you, because now the viral load will start getting higher. And then we know when the viral load gets higher, the CD4, for the work of the medication is to control the CD4 count. So when your CD4, when your white blood cells is high, when your white blood cell is protected, because the virus comes and eats the white blood cells. So the white blood cells, you know what the white blood cell is to protect you from getting. So when the white blood cells is weak, then now that's why you take ARVs to protect it, so that you don't get any other infection. But when you don't take your medication, now the white blood cells will be weak. And then from there, any other thing can come and put you down.
So opportunistic infections,
yes.
And even after those 3 months, when you start taking the medication, it doesn't help anymore now.
Yes.
Wow, I'm sure you want to respond to that, and even the reaction to some of the SMSs we saw where people were talking about resources no longer being channeled towards fighting HIV/AIDS.
Right. If you look at, I'd like to first talk about the issues about why we're also seeing some of these deaths. As Baridi has said, adherence. If adherence is not on point, then we get continuous infections. But some of the things, as somebody has rightly put, poverty. If you don't have food security, for example, then it also perpetuates the issue of non-adherence, because taking the medication, some of the side effects really, affect how one handles the medication. And if you don't have food at home, then people are also thinking, I need to take food so that I can take my medication.
So one of the requirements is you actually need food.
Food security, issues at home.
Which is another big discussion altogether in this country.
So somebody brought out the socio-economic component. If things at home are not fine, then you're unlikely to look at your own other health. If there's no food at home, if we don't have water, if we don't have other things that we are sorting out, if our basic needs are not sorted out, then the issue of addressing my own health becomes secondary to some of these other things.
Sorry for interrupting your train of thought. So what is the average cost of a person living with HIV/AIDS per day on medicine alone, before we talk food, shelter, and everything else? Whatever a ballpark figure that, in terms of medicine?
We would go back to that, but I would say it has tremendously reduced over the years.
Reduced over the years?
Yes. And I don't have the figure right now.
Okay.
But it's definitely gone down. Okay. People used to spend thousands and thousands over medication. Right now it's gone down to a few hundred.
Per day?
Yeah.
Give or take? Okay.
Give or take a few hundred. But I think one of the things, as domestic finances are improved, the counties really need to think of how best do we protect the home. The social protection of a household is one of the paramount issues that can also help prevent issues around HIV, new infections, because it reduces the risk of people going out for food, for sex, or transactional sex, so that they can get their sanitary towels, for example, for girls. So sorting out the basic needs at home would be one of the interventions that we would really need to consider, and domestic finances can actually help. So
I can only imagine the high levels of unemployment in this country could easily contribute to increased HIV/AIDS infections.
Absolutely, because if I don't have consistent money coming in to sort out my basic needs, then I'll put myself at risk. I will go out and find that man who is going to buy me some food for the week, or if I have children to feed, then I'll probably go out and try and look for another way of getting some funds. So sorting out the poverty issues is one of really the key interventions that will also help us prevent HIV.
All right, so we have to take a quick break now, but there's a lot of feedback coming through. Let's try and read some of them. We were asking you, how do we prevent the new HIV infections? From your view, what's going on? What did we lose our way? And we have Judy go and die. Who says young people have too much freedom. However, the blame is all of us, the society. It is a collective responsibility. Largely, a lot of secular music is glorifying sects and acting it out all so cool. This is a major influence to the young generations. Let's face the facts.
I wondered about social media and its effect on...
we should talk about that, actually. Rebecca will probably tell us what...
dealing with HIV/AIDS in a social media generation. Yeah. Bob Kokumu says, I fear that the gains we've made could be eroded by the current trend. We might have a different trajectory that matches the needs of millennials. Okay, thank you for that tweet.
All right, let's see another one also coming through here. Governor 254 says there's a cyclical relationship between stigma and HIV. People who experience stigma and discrimination are marginalized and made more vulnerable to HIV, while those living with HIV are more vulnerable to experiencing stigma and discrimination.
Thank you so much there, Governor 254. One more tweet, then some SMSs. Amoko Aluche says more sensitization is needed. People tend to fear pregnancy more than they fear HIV/AIDS.
Let's see now, 22422, just tell us where you're texting from and give us your name. You don't leave a name or where you're texting from, but that you say HIV and AIDS awareness should be brought out like in the olden days. The truth of the matter is that HIV is a killer disease. Look at the adverts media gives out. It gives a picture of a HIV that is friendly. Also, the people that should be advocating for the fight against HIV should be those infected because they feel how it is.
All right, let's take the last SMS before we take that break. No name, but say the government wants to pretend that it's not an issue. During Kibaki's term, the words chill were a slogan that everyone knew from primary school up until university, and they knew what it actually meant. Another thing is HIV testing should be made mandatory every 3 to 6 months so that everyone is aware of their own status. One's ignorance shouldn't lead to risk for another's life. Okay, I think very, very interesting points there.
Mandatory testing is
twice a year.
Dicey conversation, but we'll find out what our panelists think about
because of human, the rights the Constitution gives for you to choose whether you want to or not.
Yeah. That in just a bit, right after the break.